We will move on to our two study sessions tonight, the first of which is the Marketplace Redevelopment Project, and this is for the Shellmound site, otherwise known as Parcel A.
Okay, good evening again. So this is Shellmound site, or Parcel A. The railroad tracks are right there, and you have the Shellmound Street. It's positioned in the approved Marketplace PUD at build-out, so it's fairly consistent with that in terms of location size. Everything, we've gone through that before. So in terms of the changes that have occurred since the last study session, which occurred in January, the basic layout remains the same, and the basic circulation remains the same. So you've got Shellmound at the bottom. So there are two vehicular entries on the north and the south end, and the main lobby occurs along Shellmound. As you would recall, we have about 14,000 square feet of retail, ground floor retail, and a little under 200 units on top of that. And the building is divided. It's the same thing. The southern portion is 50 feet, and the northern portion is 70 feet. So, like I was saying, the circulation remains the same. We have loading and trash collection occurring on the northern end, and the pickup actually will occur on. The pickup and the loading will occur for both retail and residential on the southern end, and there will be room for trash on both ends. And the green line kind of shows how the trash would be moved from one end to the other. So this is the upper levels, and again, the blue line shows how the pedestrian connection would occur within the two buildings. So in terms of changes, there are basically two main changes that are occurring. One is on the pedestrian bridge. There were some comments made regarding the pathway, that it made straighter and clearer, and that the bike trough be added to the grand staircase. And in terms of other changes, they have refined the landscaping elements, and in addition to that, they have also made refinements to the design itself. So this was at the January study session. This is the pedestrian bridge. As you can see, here's the staircase. And one of the comments was made that as you climb up the staircase, there wasn't a visual connection to the other end because of various landscaping elements that are shown. So that was one of the main comments, and then this is also the January study session showing landscaping at the different podium level courtyards on the two buildings. These have been further refined, and so the current proposal is this. So here's the staircase. They've introduced the bike trough that goes all the way up the staircase. The seating along on one side remains, and as you can see, the landscaping in between has been removed, and as you reach up, you have a fairly straight eyesight to the end of the bridge. Some of the other things remain the same. These are 5 townhouse units opening up to this walkway, and here is one unit which also has a patio lining the walkway. There are more refinements in terms of the various species of different planting materials, and also the different courtyards here. These, I believe I have. I'll come back to the courtyards in a minute. So here is the bridge walk, and the bottom kind of tells you the images of the kind of seats that will be introduced, the kind of the bike troughs, the signage at the staircase level, some lightings, and the materials. What they have also added and changed since last time are windscreens. So these dark lines are the proposed windscreens, which would be about 8 feet in height, about 30 to 50% they would be porous. And the plantings also would be the kind that would mitigate winds along this corridor. So that's something that they have added and studied furthermore. And I believe they're doing another wind study to kind of nail down the exact species which would work to mitigate the winds that might be going through this corridor. So these are the different images for the various courtyards. They have introduced, starting to refine different play areas for children, different seating areas, and these are the images for that. And I'm just going through it quickly because I know the applicant is going to go into further details. So the other change that has occurred since the last time is in the unit mix. They have increased, so this is the evolution of the project over the 3 study sessions that we've had. And so from the last time, they have increased the number of 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, and you can see the numbers in front of your screens, and the overall unit count has also been reduced. In terms of the unit design, this is a work in progress. This was attached to your staff report, and it's kind of the comments. Arnold has been working with the applicant in trying to get these designs where they are friendly to families, and some of them have been addressed. Some of them are, like I said, is in the process, and they have also been changing their unit mix and increasing the number of 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. So Arnold will continue to work with them to make sure that they are in compliance with the family-friendly guidelines that we've talked about this evening. So in terms of the overall design, this is the rendering at the January study session. So the changes that occur in terms of design refinements occur on these corners, on the southwestern corners, and the balconies here, also the general lobby area as well. And so this is the current proposal. As you can see, these have been more refined, these images, and the elevator has been more refined, and the lobbies has been, and the next slide will give you a better idea of that. And also, as you can see, they have introduced the green roof on the southern building, which is the 50-story building. The other change, this is the shell mount elevation, which was shown at the last study session. And if you may recall, on the retail front here on the northern building, they had these brick columns. They still stay, but they have changed the brick to a dark burnt brick so that it's darker in color. And this is a kind of a more detail of that. And so you'll have dark brick here, and so that's the main change in terms of the design on this side. This is the railroad side. This was something they were working on, that elevation, and so the current proposal is this. So you still have the mix of materials. They don't change in terms of fiber cement paneling and plaster, as well as a bit of lap siding. And what they have introduced here is they've worked on defining these 2 features, and these are a lattice kind of paneling with little signage here. If you recall, the public market sign that they had shown last time, that has been reduced by almost half. However, this sign may be moot. The city attorney informs us that this sign will not be allowed because this constitutes an off-site advertising of the public market. So in terms...
Can you elaborate on that?
I think since Mike is here, I'll let him...
It's part of the public market PUD, right?
Correct, but the public... This is a residential building, although there is a portion of retail at the bottom.
It's a separate piece of property owned by a separate property owner. It's an off-premise sign.
Okay.
If it said marketplace instead of public market, since it all seems to be known as marketplace?
So why are you what is the marketplace sign for? It's really to advertise the retail component.
Maybe the way I would look at it is advertising the neighborhood. I see, living in the area, I see that whole thing as, I call every part of that parcel the marketplace. And I see it is interchangeable. I see, hopefully when it's done, there's retail throughout the whole project. So I think if we didn't call it the public market, which is what that property is, and we call it the marketplace, it just tells people this is the neighborhood you're entering. That's the way I would look at it.
We can look at that.
Moving on. So I take it that the commission likes the sign?
I actually don't like the sign. I just,
Okay,
I
then we
just
can come
defend their
come
right to
back to
have
that
it.
then. And then, of course, if you don't like it, then the whole legal discussion is moot, so,
Yeah, I'm not a big signage fan, actually.
okay. So generally, the staff thinks that it's going in the right direction overall. Some of the comments that we had before was, the wayfinding signage would be important. We appreciated the introduction of the green roof on the south building. We had some questions regarding the signs, the AVA signs. I think it's more clarification in terms of are they illustrative, and then if they are not, then what are the various details, but I'm sure that can be more defined in subsequent submittals. There was no agreement among us on the change in material from brick to the black glazed brick. So something for you to think about and give your opinion on. And this is another comment from last time that the public art component of the building would need to coordinate with the public art proposal under the Powell Street Bridge that is currently being implemented by the city. So in terms of issues that the commission needs to give their opinion on is pretty much the same as last time. It's the proposed unit mix, and as well as on the design concept and the preference for materials and any other issues that you may have. So I know the applicant does have a detailed presentation, but before they begin, if you have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer. Otherwise, I will hand it over to not sure who's going to be talking, but to the applicant.
I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
In the, I think it was a staff report, if not the email, it said something that we would get the DCC comments on the dais tonight. How come we haven't seen those?
Those were the staff comments?
That's the ones you've given us?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And is there a reason they didn't make it in the packet this time? That's not going to be a common occurrence, is it?
No, it's not going to be a common occurrence.
Okay, I figured there might have been something that hung up. Also, the plans were very specific in mentioning that there were 179 units, and I mean the
Yes,
167, and you guys said 170. What is the unit count?
Unit count is what I showed you, which is 167.
167?
That was an error, I forgot to mention that. But the plans that you have are consistent with the slide I showed you, which is 167, and the unit breakdown is what I showed you at the slide. Yes, sorry about that. I would also like to mention that I forwarded an email from Cindy Truelove of the Terraces, and a hard copy is on your dais as well.
She's here.
Oh, I didn't see you. She'll be here, and she will talk about her email as well, in terms of, it sounds like that the Terraces, a lot of their concerns have been addressed. They've got a couple of concerns regarding noise, which I believe the applicant is working with them.
So I want to make sure I want to make sure I understand the discrepancy about the unit count. So where was the table in our staff report was incorrect?
Let me just get you.
That's the difference.
Oh, okay.
So what happened, so the table, the last column for current proposal is incorrect in the staff report. This is the current breakdown.
Okay.
And that is consistent with the plans that you have.
Okay. All right.
So what the plans that you have and that you saw and are reviewing are, the breakdown is this, which is slightly different from the one that the staff report mentions. This happens when plans are being on or otherwise, but no apologies for that.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Thank you, Maru.
All right.
All right, so we'll invite the applicant up to give us a presentation.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Hong with Avalon Bay, and Chair Moss and commissioners. So we're glad to be back. I think it's been a few months since we've showed you this, but since we were here last, all on our team has worked very hard and listened to all of your comments, made revisions to the drawings, which our architects will show you. And thanks, Maru, for clarifying. We did look at quite a few things, and I won't go into the details because architects will, but we did look at those elevations as Maru showed you. We have met with our neighbors and wanted to make sure that we worked with them and collaborated on addressing their concerns. We have looked at the bridge walk and considered the bike trough and a lot of the other important points that were brought up, and most importantly on the units. And as Maru kind of highlighted, we heard you loud and clear about doing more 2s and 3s, and so we've worked very hard. And this latest thing shows, something where we think we can work up to 55% of 2s and 3s, and we've also increased our three bedrooms. So, then finally, I know the whole family-friendly discussion. We have also worked with Arnold and took a close, hard look at all of the guidelines that were there before, and we've done our best to, I think, incorporate a lot of that with a diversity and variety of unit types too. So just wanted to open with that so that you knew our thinking on it, and really wanting to work with and cooperate with staff and the commission.
No introduction?
Raise your mic up.
Well. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tom Cox. It feels like old home week now. Back again. I appreciate Nathan getting up and kind of illuminating everybody as to the energy and effort that's been put into coming back to you tonight with another iteration and the things that we've been concerned about and considering, and the efforts that we've gone through to try and accommodate all of those thoughts that we've received from Commission over the last several study sessions. So we're talking today about Parcel A, and as you well know, Parcel A is in the upper right-hand side. It's got a mouse here, up in this upper corner. And the talk tonight, or the study session for us, is Parcel A and Parcel D, or the theater site. And first of all is A. And correctly, that is 167 units. As you can see by the site plan, we have retail on the ground level, parking behind. We're immediately adjacent to the railroad tracks and immediately across the street from the marketplace itself. Last time we were here, we took away more than 6 comments, but primarily I think that we were directed to strengthen the southwest corners and add more playful balconies, and we couldn't agree more. That was something I think we kind of lost on our iteration previous time we came back to you, so we looked very closely at that. Further developed the east elevation, which is the elevation that is up against the railroad tracks. We also developed other elevations in flight as we were doing those iterations. Also, the development of the roofscape and the elevation seen from the southeast, create a more direct bridge walk and add a bike trough. Also to develop and provide exhibits showing elevations along the bridge walk. And lastly, and very importantly, was the provision of more family-friendly units. So I'd like to start off with the overall big idea of the project. Once again, we have our office, our client, and I'm sure the city is interested in 360-degree design. So we don't have a front and a back to our buildings. We like to think of them as all important. We have taken this opportunity to break down some of the key and major components, like the gateway to the bridge walk, the entry portal to the public marketplace area. And we've diagrammed these, and we've talked about these before, and I think they came up in your package. The building itself, 167 units, 14,000 plus square feet of retail. All of our parking is contained on site behind the retail and one level above that. We have 2 entrances on either side coming off in and out of the garage to ease circulation concerns. Also, the arrows gives you some sense of what the pedestrian circulation and the bike access circulation also accomplish. So first of all, we wanted to strengthen the corners. I think we took a very strong look. I think one of the things that we really liked about it an iteration or two ago is that we had some balconies that were very playful and they were asymmetrical, and they kind of moved in and out of the building, and it gave a really interesting quality to those corners. It helped lighten up the corners. It made them interesting, and as you're coming up the street on Shell Mound, on the lower right corner, you can see those balconies. We really worked a lot on the retail and the ground level and the pedestrian, the feeling of the pedestrian along the street. And then on the west side, the important part for us was to create a landmark piece of the building that was a gateway for two things. One, it was a gateway for our building, which we thought was important. And two, it was a gateway for one of the most important parts of the building, which is the bridge walk itself. So we've worked really hard on those. This is a little bit of a not a little bit, it's a relatively good rendering of the that bridge walk, the leasing center down below. The right side is the 3-story building over the retail, and then on the left side is the higher building, and what those corners would look like and how the bridge walk will feel, and gives you a good perspective of the components of the bridge walk also. Again, this is just a snapshot of the materials, the layering, the coloring, and the offset of the balconies to try and make that an exciting and dynamic corner. And then on the retail level, our other concern was the pedestrian experience. So there is some changes in material. I know we talked about the glazed brick, but we're also utilizing all those other materials like metal and hardy panel and hardy siding, not hardy, but a cementitious panel and siding. We really wanted to work hard on the retail level to make it an integral part of the experience at the street. So this gives you a shot from the corner, the southwest corner, showing those balconies up above, showing the enhanced storefront, the awnings, the steel awnings over the windows, and then that outdoor plaza opportunity at the corner. The east elevation is a real challenge. Obviously, there's reasons. We have a railroad across the way. We're very concerned about sound. We're concerned about the visibility of this side of the building from our neighbors. I think rightfully so, this side of the building needed some work. We think we've done a pretty good job of delineating a more articulated, colorful, material-rich building on this side. We've actually wrapped those materials from the front and from the sides around to the east elevation and incorporated those in a different way to create a strong element on the bridge side here. On the south side of the building, we've continued to work with the architect, the Arnold, in terms of mass, form, rhythm. And we've also incorporated those materials on this side of the building as well. One of the concerns I know that the council had was they said they didn't want a building that had over 50% stucco. We agree heartily, and that's not a building material. We agree, and we have limited the plaster on this building, the exterior stucco, to 30% of the building. And then you can see on the pie chart up there percentages of the different materials that we're anticipating using on the building, stucco being only at 30%. We do have a materials board.
Yeah, they've seen it.
There, and it's been passed around, so it gives you a sense of some of the ideas of the materials that we're anticipating using. Another concern, I think, in the very first meetings was the approval of the specific plan and the heights of the buildings and the mass of the buildings. The red outline that you see up here is the approved building outline by the specific plan. On the left-hand side, it's a 50-foot high building, and the red line you can see that wraps around our building. We worked very hard to keep everything within that height limit so that we're not obstructing the views of our neighbors. On the right, the building was allowed to go to, I believe, 140 feet. We're currently at between 80 and 85 feet, and we're well within the framework of the height limitation here also. There are some things that we took into consideration on this side of the building also. I think we might get to it later, but I want to mention it now. We did put a green roof on the building. It's a pretty expansive area, and I think landscape can talk about that. And we also put a roof deck on the fore corner of the smaller building. The bridge walk. There's two or three things that were key to the bridge walk. One was the addition of the bike trough. We actually had a bike trough on it, but we didn't show it and illustrate it. We went back with landscape and the ownership, and we really worked on getting the bike trough to work, so we have both an up and a down bike trough. Another consideration was the width of the bike trough and the path of travel. So we simplified it, but we tried to keep some excitement. We have some benches and some seating. We have planting. We have different pavement textures. Landscape's going to talk about that. But we tried to make it a direct approach. It's pretty much you can draw a straight line from the stair right to where the bridge ends at the site, and then also a direct approach to the elevator. So we worked hard on that, and we think it's a good improvement. And we look forward to showing you that in the landscape plan also. This is what that would look like if you were coming off of the bridge and working your way through our project and heading towards the marketplace. It also, you had asked, what do some of the interior elevations look like? Are we going to just stop at the exterior and then let the interiors go? We're anticipating wrapping all of those materials into the courtyards, using the colors, using the materials, and this gives you a sense of what the bridge walk and some of those interior courtyards would look like. This is a section through that, and you can see the materials are being wrapped inside. The bridge is on the right and the stair is on the left. So with that, I know this doesn't look like April Phillips, but a very qualified individual.
Hi, good evening. My name is George Lowe, and I work with April Phillips Design Works, and I'm filling in for her this evening. She's at a board meeting in Washington, D.C. So I did actually want to speak first to the bridge walk a bit. I know that was one of the primary areas that, from a landscape perspective, that you wanted us to focus on. And so we had some ideas that we were trying to integrate or to try to develop, and we were trying to simplify the walk. As Ruru pointed out in her opening, that there used to be some islands and planted islands in the middle of the walkway, and those have been eliminated in order to open up the path of travel and to really emphasize the travel through the space and up and down the stairs, and widen the walk overall. So that was one major driving factor in the changes. Trying to make sure that this was going to be an active space. Part of that is enabling different kinds of access through it. So whether that's the bike trough or ADA accessibility throughout, those are important things. I know from the architect's standpoint, there was also the addition of the townhomes and the stoops that front the space. So what you're seeing on the left there, there'll be more people kind of entering the building directly from the bridge walk, and so that's just creating more opportunities for activity there. And then integrating stairs and benches and opportunities for people to sit down in key locations and see what's happening. So, and then gathering opportunities, which also happens, of course, on the main stairs. So those were all part of the activation of the space. Down below there, you can see also that for instance, the stairs, the seat walls at the bottom left in the patio that kind of fronts the elevator, the seat walls now turn that corner so people can sit there. It adds another place for just people to sit down, whether they're using the retail establishments or whether they're just waiting for people to show up, or they're just watching people walk up and down Shell Mound. So that was part of an activation agenda. Making the space dynamic. We have some of the images here. Some of them have been shown before with the signage and the lighting. so that at different times of day, there's different feels to the space, make it exciting in that way, integrating lighting so that, you know, you have a seating situation that might look like the far left during the day, and at night it's, you know, has a different feel to it because the lighting is integrated into the space, and that makes it feel like a, you know, you're getting more out of the space. And then also the materials and how we use materials to sort of help people flow through and give that dynamic sense. Another thing that Maru spoke to earlier was the wind. So from a, you know, we want to make the space comfortable and make it safe and make it inviting. So we are working with a wind consultant who is, we've had a couple of back and forths with them already to look at how we mitigate the channeling of the wind through the space, and that's done partially by the use of trees and vegetation, and partially through the introduction of wind screens, which have a certain height and amount of porosity that is recommended, and spacing. So we're going to be working through all of those details with the wind consultant to make sure that that's not a factor in terms of people's enjoyment of the space. And then, of course, the safety of it, and the wind screens will play into that. They're going to be, ideally, they'd be integrated with the architecture, and they'll be lit, so they'll be adding an element at night, but also adding the light with those kind of, maybe some kind of signature light fixture, like you're seeing at the bottom there, that just make it feel safe. So from the bridge walk, that's been a major part of our redevelopment since last time. And then just briefly looking at the individual podium spaces, there's supposed to be different opportunities for barbecue and sitting around just informally. There's a game space. The terraces, there's 3 different levels. So, going back and forth a bit, but you're seeing what's called the Sun Terrace on the left, a family activity terrace where there's a barbecue and a child's play space, and then what's called the Chill Terrace, where there is an opportunity for projected movies on the walls, and lots of movable furniture and lots of opportunities for people to sort of create their own experiences in these spaces and adapt the space to what they want it to be. And that is pretty much it for the landscape changes at this point.
Thank you.
I think I went a little too far on my slides back there. So, family friendly. Last time we presented to you is the building on the left. And at that point we had 31% 2 bedrooms and 4% 3 bedrooms. And in those percentages, I would think that the family-friendly quality of those units had not been taken to the level that we have taken them to today. Not all units are family-friendly in this project. This is a project that has a diverse mix that accommodates more than families. It accommodates lots of people, but I think it has a very strong sensibility to the needs of a family-friendly environment. On the right is the new mix, and the light tan shows the diversification of that mix, and the new 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom total is about 55% versus the previous 35%. This has caused a reduction in unit count. So, as you pointed out earlier, I think when you looked at the reports, we've gone from 185 units to 167 units to accommodate the increase in the 2- and 3-bedroom units. We did a quick matrix. It is in your package. If you get a chance to look at it, that would be great. We took all of the key components, and again, we worked with architect Mammarella a number of times, I think 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken, and with staff, to come up with as a good mix of family-friendly components in the units that were designated family-friendly. And I can't read it from here, but one by one, all the green areas are accommodating family-friendly components within each of the units that we designated as a family-friendly unit. And those areas, the key components of those are dedicated dining areas, in-unit storage for strollers, bikes, trikes. We don't have any way to make the child put the bike in the closet, but somebody will figure that out. Side-by-side washers and dryers wherever possible. Separate living areas from the living areas by the creation of some hallways and adjacent spaces. Minimum of 60 square foot decks or patios. I know there's been a lot of discussion tonight about the family-friendly components. We have, I think there's a word striven. We have attempted to incorporate as many of those components as we can, working with staff and with staff architect consultant. That's the project rendering I showed you earlier. And I'm open for any questions if you would care to ask them.
Is the commercial space suitable for a restaurant or food service?
It most definitely is. The bay depth of the commercial space is suitable for a restaurant. It has a back hallway corridor to service things like food and trash to get it out of the restaurant space. We're certainly hoping and designating the two major corners, north and south. They have an outdoor widened patio area that they could use for an indoor-outdoor dining experience. I think the alcove here at the stair immediately around that corner shares that same indoor-outdoor patio opportunity. I think this is ripe for restaurants, but also would accommodate other retail users as well.
So there's shafts?
Absolutely. There is, we've dialed that in with the retail developer and our owner, and all of those accommodations for air conditioning, shafting, and all of that has been accommodated, yes. As well as delivery, which is always a big thing with retail.
I'm just curious, you've done the bike trough before, or you've done?
I have done a bike trough before. This is a two-sided trough. The handrail goes right up the middle. Mm-hmm. It's a foot wide, and bike trough going up the hill, and also adjacent to the rail coming down the hill. So the handrail is available also.
So how do you prevent the handrail from interfering with the bike trough? The bike as you're rolling down.
Well, the bike going down.
Or if you're rolling the bike down in the trough.
Typically, being a rider, and I'm sure you're a rider,
mm-hmm.
the bike would be tilted a little bit away from the handrail.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I wouldn't lay it on. You could lay it on the rail, but typically you would walk down. If I'm standing here, the bike's going to be angled a bit. You've got to be able to grab the rail.
We actually looked
Microphone.
Come up.
We looked at a lot of case studies for bike troughs. We looked at some of the things BART had done and retrofitting their stations, and we downloaded several sort of best practices or recommendations for the designs of bike troughs and looked at the details, and they all showed or explained that you could have a rail directly over the trough, or the kind of like the divot in the trough, because the way people use them.
Okay.
They tip
Yeah,
over.
I just was wondering about, obviously the rail's going to have posts supporting it. Are people's...
I think the trough itself, I mean, it's a foot wide.
Uh-huh.
So the post is going to be in the middle. The trough should be easily 5 inches on either side.
Uh-huh.
You can see in the second from the left photo there's a trough. There's an image of a bike trough. It's going, it's got two-way, and you
Yeah.
can see that there would be room to put a
Put the
railing
rail down the middle
of that. And there are others where it showed on the side, and you have a railing directly above it. So
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar question, so I think when you guys come back for your approval, it'd be nice to have some photos of some examples and see,
I was thinking of a mock-up for an actual bike trough. It would just bring that thing in here with a rail on it. And no, I agree, 100%. The last thing we want to do, and you do too, we don't want to build something or convince you of something and then not have it work. That's not going to help anybody. And bicycles are an important part of our lifestyle, so absolutely.
So just going back to the walkway and the landscaping aspects of the walkway and the windscreens, I'm assuming that you are really looking also at sight lines for safety and visibility. You mentioned having lights and some degree of porosity in the windscreens, but I'm hoping that they're not going to be creating places where there's opportunities for lurking.
Well, most of them, the recommended height for the windscreens is 8 feet from the base of from the walkway itself. And the idea is that where they're shown there would actually be in garden beds. So, they're not going to be, they'd be starting up a little bit higher, and then they would be off to the side, so they won't be obstructing the view corridors, any more than the planting really. I mean, they're a bit higher, but they won't be sort of coming into the space more. But again, yeah, that's definitely something we'll keep in mind as we work to figure out exactly where they should be located.
That and the heights of the planting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are other fences sort of and screening going on, like between the private space and the public walk, and the ideas of the designs of these things will tie into that as well. So they won't just be sticking out as a windscreen, in the space.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So with that, we will go ahead and open the public comment on this item. So if anyone would like to speak, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Cindy Truelove from the Terraces, and I won't repeat the email I sent you. You have it in your packet. But thanks to the project proponents and Tom Cox Architects, and to all of you. And I think the Terraces, I certainly can speak for myself, but my neighbors as well, we felt really listened to, and we want to stay engaged. And I'll just say one little tiny concern I had when I saw tonight was some green, but still a fair amount of white around on the roof. At least it looked like it on the smaller building, and we're really concerned about heat reflection if there's too much white. So we'll take as much green as possible. And some of my neighbors are a little concerned. We did look at the noise report the engineer created for the proponents, and it certainly is convincing to us that there will be minimal sort of detectable noise. But we do have a situation where we have, trains zipping by, and that's one level of noise. That's kind of a moving object and probably was more the target of the engineering report. But we also have trains that are stationary, and they beep their horns, and then they beep again when they leave. And we're just, I'm not sure what can be done about that, but if to the degree we can think about mitigating that kind of stationary train noise, train horn calming would be great, but that's a very expensive prospect, so.
I forgot to mention that, and we have taken into consideration the noise. We did do a sound report. I think it's a 1 dB increase, but there is the concern about the horns, and we are continuing to study that issue to see if anything we can do on the building to help baffle that. Just wanted to mention that.
Okay. So earlier tonight, the Planning Commission said yes to the family-friendly design guidelines, and you'll remember there was floor plans, and you'll remember a salient point, and you can ask Maru about this, is that we want no bedrooms. Can you put this on the screen, please, the overhead projector? Large salient point. Kim, can you stop the clock, please? Thank you. Can you start the clock again? You'll remember one of the main salient points of the document you just said yes to whereas the bedrooms don't open onto living rooms, dining rooms, and kitchens. And you'll see here, well, I've gone through this a couple days ago and today again. Virtually every single unit, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, the bedrooms open right onto the living room, dining room. A lot of times you have to go through a dining room or living room to get to the bathroom. Here's another one. I mean, it's just chock-a-block. Virtually every single, almost every single unit plan has that characteristic. So it's completely counter to the document you just said yes to for family-friendly housing. So the developer here tonight just told us that this is a family-friendly project, but of course he would say that. So I posit to you that maybe he's wrong for whatever reason, but there's no reasonable person can say that this development comports with the document you just said yes to tonight. And so just warning to the Planning Commission, you don't want to, embarrass yourselves, I would think. And so I would say, if you say yes to this and yes to the other document, one more time, please, it'll make you look ridiculous. So let's have the document you just said yes to have some weight, please. In addition, I wanted to say, once again, it's drive-in, drive-out, podium, not family-friendly. There's nothing said by the developer regarding the retail. What we want is locally serving retail that's not formula retail. There's been nothing said about that. What we're going to get is we're going to get either empty units or we're going to get formula fast food. What we need this in writing from the developer, the type of retail we're going to get. So you need to get that in writing. But if we just leave it up to the marketplace, we're going to get something that we don't want. How do we know that? By our history here in Emeryville. The city, you have to remember, the city gets no net revenue from residential projects. We get nothing. As a matter of fact, they cost us a little. So every residential heavy project, that's true. Yes, that's true. Every residential heavy project, we can't make money off of residences, Mr. Cardozo. We don't make money off of them, and we shouldn't.
If you could wrap up your comments, please.
Yes. Well, okay. We don't make money off of resident-friendly, resident-heavy projects, so it doesn't help us financially. So what we need in return is a really nice project, something that will enhance our city, and so I posit to you that that's not this project. Okay, now the gentleman here said you would like to cede 2 minutes to me.
No, I think you've had your time, and we'll enter.
How much time have we had?
You've had 3 minutes.
I've had 3 minutes. I'd like to have another 2 if this gentleman would like to cede me 2 more minutes.
Let's see if there are other speakers. And
that's fair enough. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? All right, we'll give you a brief moment. So
okay.
Try to make it brief.
Okay. The developer is saying that this is a family-friendly project. He's telling you that he's worked on making it more family-friendly, and maybe he has, but that doesn't mean it's family-friendly. If this body here tonight forwards says yes to this project and yes to the document you just said earlier, you're going to look like fools. I mean, you can do that if you'd like, but remember, this is going to go to the city council, and remember, we all should remember what happened at the city council with regard to the moratorium that was requested by 3 of the council members. That was voted down by a supermajority of 3-2. Now this project is going to be voted on by 3 council members, the same 3 that said yes to the moratorium. You can be at odds with the Planning Commission or with the City Council if you'd like, but I think you should, represent the interests of what the people of Emeryville want, and they've shown what they want by how they voted. I don't see how any reasonable person can say that this comports with the family-friendly design guidelines you just said yes to. So
thank you.
Please make it comport.
All right, last call for speakers on this item. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment, and we will open this up for discussion.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank the developers and the architect for their further improvements on the project. I think you've done a good job. The comments, give you kudos for doing that. Comments I have we didn't discuss yet tonight is the crosswalk coming off of the bridge. I know there's been a lot of discussion of wanting that to directly connect to the marketplace. I feel where they are shown on the current plan as being to the left and the right of the bridge landing is appropriate because I think the bus shelter is in the proper place. And what we need to do is look at this project in its holistic finished project, that the marketplace is not only going to be the sole destination, that the east side of Shellmount Street will now be activated with shops on that side as well. So people coming off the landing may very well want to just turn right and left and go to the shops that are on that side of the street. So I think with the conflict of the bus shelter and the bus island, I'd like to just see the sidewalks stay where they are. The other items is I like the new finishes and colors. I'm seeing more dark colors on homes and buildings all over the place, and I'm liking it. I'm just concerned with how the look will relate to and interface with the marketplace building. I'm thinking that perhaps the black window frames in both projects will kind of tie those two together. What I'd like to ask you to do is maybe instead of looking at the shiny brick, is maybe look at something like a clinker brick, something that's more bisque fired or raku fired, something that doesn't quite have that finished polished look, but yet still give you the black look. That's one way that might go towards working with the brick from the public market. Regarding the cement fiberboard, I just asked that what you do use there is something with a more reflective finish as shown on page A2.10, more than a textured finish board that kind of looks like fiberglass or something like that. I'm very happy with the low 30% stucco use. I thank you for doing that, but from what I saw on the design boards, I like to see something of a smoother finish that has a more contemporary look rather than a real chunky. I know this isn't a troweled look, but it's still a very, very textured, and I think something of a much flatter, smoother look in that texture would give you more of that contemporary look. I love the glass rails on the balconies. I'm very happy with the Eastern Railroad side of the building. I think you've done a lot there. I actually like those sides, the eastern side, better than the north and the south side of the building. I'm happy with the signs, but I understand we were talking about a vote of contention there, so if they went away, I would be just as happy. I thought it was an interesting architectural look. As I said before, it kind of reminds me of Pike's Place Market. I don't have as much problem with signage as others do. And I like the open fencing in the courtyards to the bridge path. I like the visual connection. I know there's a security thing there, but I think the openness of that is very helpful. Now I'd like to make some additions, which I hope are kind of limited. Would it be too expensive to add some kitchen windows to the townhouse units that front the walk? I know there's a perfect opportunity where the sinks face right onto that, and if there was a window there, that would really put a little bit more eyes on the street, so to speak, and just make those a little bit more friendly and bring in natural light, which of course we all like. So if you're able to put some windows in there, I think that would be a really good look. On 1.2, since you're oversubscribed on the number of bike parking that the city is requiring, I'd like for you to add some bike lockers in the south wall of the bike room on the second floor. The first floor is a great place for lockers and bikes if you can put them there. And looking at the plans, I really couldn't find a place to locate bike lockers on the first floor. Myself, my bike locker is on the second floor. I just drive up the riding ramp and go into my bike locker. Just having a locker is really important. So I think if you could put some there on the south wall of the bike room, I would be very appreciative of that. And where the new bridge or the current bridge landing is in your garage, I know that's under debate for who owns that property, but if that's ever resolved, it looks like maybe some bike lockers could go in that area as well. So just something to keep in mind in the future when that issue is resolved. And I didn't really see where employees and customers of the retail could park, other than, is it going to just be on the street, or is there any secured bike parking for the employees that will work in the retail spaces? Yeah.
Hi, Mark Steffen with Citizen Realty Partners. The bike parking and auto parking for the retail customers' employees will be in the Parcel C structure. So we'll have bike lockers there, we'll have bike parking, we'll have auto parking.
Okay.
For them.
All right. A few more things is also on the subject of windows is I like to see them on the floors of the stairwells on the eastern side where you have the exit stairs. It's kind of been studied. I work at the School of Public Health, and we've done some studies there that show that when there are windows and natural light in stairwells, they're more often used. And so I saw in a couple places that looked like there might be some, but if at not every landing, but every floor level, if there was some windows there, I think it would be much more enhanced space in those stairwells. If you can add a window to the dog spa on the eastern side, I know on the wall side, with the railroad side, there is a window in the hallway, and so if you put a window in the dog, I know that the dog spa is an interior room, but if you put a window that faced that corridor or hallway that also faced the window on the exterior and the east side, it would bring natural light in and some views if it wasn't tinted. And for your transit, I definitely want to see that we use the AC Transit Easy Pass. And I'd also like you to consider a one-year membership to Zipcar for residents who are interested in that. I don't think it has to be mandatory, but if someone expresses an interest, it would be nice. I know my first year on Zipcar was a free thing, I think, through the city when they first started. So I've been one ever since. Since your parking request is below the city requirements, I think this is a way that you can justify those lower numbers by giving that off. And lastly, just for us when we're looking at the project again next time, the illustrations that you used in the January packet, particularly on A2.1, .2, and .3, were a bit more color-oriented and a little larger. You kind of separated the residents from the retail space in the quarters. It was kind of all color-coded. And I found that a lot easier to use. So if you could look at those compared to what was in this package and kind of go back to that first type, I find that as looking at the plans, it helps me identify the spaces a little easier. I could do it, but it's really fast and really convenient to see them in a colored format. And other than that, I like the project. I like the increase of family-friendly units. I do recognize that the project is a mixed use and it is not totally family oriented, so I'm comfortable with the number of units and what you've done to make the units more family-friendly.
Well, I think I can keep it a little shorter than that. I think it's greatly improved. I like the layout. I think the floor plans are very good. I'm not a big fan of all the decks. I think the space could be better put within the unit, but that seems to be a standard nowadays. Also, I note the corridors have the ability to have outward views for the most part, which is something that Brad brought up, which I think makes a lot of sense. And so I hope you take advantage of it in laying the thing out.
Well, I agree that it would be nice to bring more light into the corridors, especially on the east side of the building. That would be a good thing. I tend to like the warmer brick, the other brick colors that are more compatible with the other surrounding buildings, and I like those warmer colors rather than the black ones. There seems to be really, really limited access to both of the courtyards, and it would be great to see if there were other ways that one could get in, especially to the one that's supposed to be the family courtyard. It looks like there's only one way to get into that one on the upper level. On the lower courtyard, it looks like there's a couple of ways to get in, but still, the physical access to that space that's serving so many units seems to be really small. I would also like to see the roof treatment expanded. It is still a really big white space up there, and more green roof or some other treatment that would improve that would be appreciated. I'm not a big signage person, so anything to do to reduce or remove the signs is fine with me. The configuration of the units really, really did strike me when I was looking at it. The two-bedroom, not so much the three-bedroom units, but the two-bedroom units, because they seem to be very, very clearly set up for sharing an apartment by adult people. Most of the two-bedroom units are even drawn with double beds in both of the bedrooms, and they're completely separated spaces. They don't feel family-oriented at all. And I understand it's a mix of uses, and there's a mix of people that are going to be there, but I do think that at least a good number of those two-bedroom units need to be more oriented with the sleeping areas on hallways, together off the living areas, and the three-bedroom units as well. It would be good to have a higher number of three-bedroom units. I appreciate that you have come up in the unit count, but still, looking at the vast majority of the units in the building are the two-unit buildings, and they're set up as two-unit shared adult spaces rather than family spaces. So I'd like to see that addressed. I talked about the windscreen and the planting and the visibility along the passageway that goes over the bridge to the Amtrak station. And I assume that there's, looking at the lighting on the street lighting on the plan, I assume there's going to be a lighting study that shows where those street lights are going to end up. That's what I have for now. And I do appreciate that you have been talking with the Terraces residents and that you're going to be continuing to get input from them and keep the lines of communications open.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys. It's come a long way. I'd like to reiterate a lot of the comments of my fellow commissioners, including some of the aesthetic ones regarding the brick, the stucco plaster being more of a smooth troweled finish instead of the medium sand finish or whatever you got there. I like the sign as a piece of art, as a work of art, if it's done properly. I think it could really, I'm actually most drawn to the eastern elevation at this point, and I think part of the reason is that it's just by necessity a little bit more industrial, and therefore in some ways to me it reflects the nature of the public market a little bit more than some of the glossier elevations, and the elevations that are a little bit more broken up. The parking circulation, I'd encourage you to take a look at that a little bit more. There's just a couple where the ramp drops in or comes out on the second floor in particular. The angle that it's at and the fact that there's no clear direction for traffic seems like a car coming up could easily get clipped by a car turning around the side that doesn't even see it. So you might want to take a look at that, or you know, is that a wall right there or not? Parking on the first floor ramp also seems to offer some issues, but the second floor one's the one that really strikes me as a potential accident waiting to happen. Reiterate my fellow commissioners' comments regarding visual connection between corridors and courtyards, and more direct access, or more regular direct access from the corridors to the courtyards. The corner piece that we're, you know, talking about being this sort of the corner piece of the taller half of the building. It's getting there, but I think it still could use a little bit more attention to really make it this this sort of focal point that you're trying to achieve there. I don't know that the shed roof is doing it a lot of service. It's something that's been done a lot, especially in Emeryville. Wondering if there might be another approach a little bit more unique to this project. And yeah, and as far as the crosswalk's concerned, I don't know, at this point I lose track of which particular component the crosswalk is part of, but this is one area where I disagree with Commissioner Keller. I feel like the crosswalk should be at the bottom of the stairs. This is the primary path of travel for people coming from over the railroad tracks, and for them to come down and have as many options as possible at the base of the stairs, I think is preferable. And yeah, just to reiterate the comment as well regarding the units, it seems like all the B1 units in particular are really set up as kind of dormitory style, or two bedrooms with each their own bath on either side of a small common living space. And so I'd like to see, and just the one diagram that you brought up, I think I counted half of the units were those types of units. And if between those units and all the studios and one bedroom units, I think we end up with a situation where 80-85% of the building, of the units in the building are really set up for singles or two unrelated adults, and that is, that seems to be going contrary to the intentions, if your intentions are to make this a family-friendly development. So that's right.
Yeah, and I share a lot of those comments. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I also want to thank you for your hard work on this. I think it is really coming along. But I do have a lot of the same comments regarding the unit mix. I think it's really encouraging that over 50% of the units are 2 and 3 bedrooms. But I do share the same concern about kind of the layout of most of those 2-bedroom units. I have noticed the same thing, that they seemed very much designed for unrelated adults. And then I sort of started thinking, I mean, my initial reaction was, well, they're, especially some of them don't even have a situation where you would be able to access a bathroom without walking through a bedroom. But some of the others have bathrooms which are accessible from both the bedroom and the main part of the unit. And it actually struck me as I was thinking about it that is exactly my own unit. But I think the difference is that I have a bathroom in my unit which is clearly a guest bathroom, which also happens to be accessible from a bedroom. So the bathroom very much functions independently, and it opens into the living room, and it then has a pocket door which accesses the bedroom, and there's a separate sink on the other side of that pocket door. But the bathroom itself is very clear that it's the bathroom for the unit, whereas these function like they are a master bathroom that happens to be accessible from the unit. So I would like you to work a little bit on that, and just with a mind towards kind of observing the majority of the guidelines that we did discuss tonight in the family-friendly design guidelines. So I appreciate the matrix that you put together where you kind of highlighted which of those were being met and not. But I still think there's some work to be done as far as the unit design and floor plan. I also, as far as the design of the building, I also kind of had the same concern about the corner feature on the taller building. I think it's getting there. It's definitely improved, but there's still something missing, I think. As far as the other building, the shorter building, just in general, I actually also, I think my favorite elevation at this point is the elevation that faces the railroad. And that shorter building, I preferred the railroad elevation. I think the elevation that faces Shell Mound is a little too regular. I think it doesn't quite have enough interest. I think it needs something else in terms of a material change or a color change or something that adds a little more interest to it. In general, the materials, I had some concerns about the materials. I wasn't in love with any of them except really the, what was it? well, obviously the aluminum storefront is, a dark aluminum storefront, and that looks good. And there was another one, but I can't remember what it was. But I had the same concern about the stucco. It'd be great to see a smooth finish on that, or plaster, or whatever you call it. Just in general, I always seem to bring up the quality of the materials, and like I said, I didn't fall in love with any of them. So I think something that could make those materials either appear more high quality or be more high quality or something. I'm having difficulty kind of articulating that, but they weren't very interesting to me. Board formed concrete is a material that I never know how to feel about board formed concrete. On one hand, it's I don't know. To me, I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but to me, it seems like a very dated material. Like, it always makes me think of the 1970s when we built a lot of things out of board formed concrete. So I don't know if other people share that feeling or not. The sign, I'm not willing to. I'm not willing to say that that no sign would be appropriate there, but I think if we are going to approve a sign that does extend beyond the roof line of a building, which would be highly unusual for most cities, and as well as Emeryville, I believe, that it does need to be something that's really unusual and has a lot of artistic merit, or has a lot of that there's sort of a design justification for approving that. The sign as it is now. There's no reason why it couldn't be a wall sign. It's not a very interesting or aesthetically interesting sign. It just block letters could just as well be placed on the wall. So I think if we're going to to do it as a sign above the roof line, that there needs to be a prominent reason for it, and also it needs to pay attention to the kind of the overall architecture and the design of the building. Like right now, it looks kind of funny because it extends, above. It extends beyond that kind of vertical feature that it's attached to for no reason, and just kind of makes that feature. It just makes the building look top heavy. I think that area of the building. Let me see my notes. Materials, sign, floor plans, unit mix. Yeah, I think I've touched on everything that I noted. So I will just, before we conclude or move on, I will just ask the applicant if they feel that they have enough input and information to move forward with our comments.
I think we do. We appreciate all your comments, and it's an ongoing learning process for all of us. Maybe a read on the sign, whether we'll get away with it or not, would be helpful. Before you leave? You want to say something?
Yeah. And then I think just as you mentioned, the material board that we had passed around, if you had any specific comments, or does that look okay? And anything else that we would look at a little bit further? I mean, we do plan to spend more time delving into the details of it, but if there are any specific comments, that likes or dislikes, and I did hear general comments already, but again, just
I think I heard at least two comments, if I could. One was on the panels, more of a sheen that gives it a higher quality feel, and I don't disagree with that. I think it gives it a nice, not a glaze, but at least a bit of a sheen to it versus a pebble texture. And then the stucco being a little on the chunky side, and maybe a smoother or a lighter finish on the stucco would be helpful. I don't remember any other specific comments.
I think there were a couple comments about the brick and preference that
yeah,
it's not
thank
the
you.
black glazed brick.
So black's good, but glazed, not so good on the glaze.
Oh, I liked
Well,
the
I
glaze,
like
but you guys-
All right, we're
I
going to
like
take a
the
vote on the
warmer
brick.
colors,
But
that's- yeah.
so look at the brick.
Look at the
Well,
brick.
it would be really helpful to
Oh.
find out what the consensus is, so we know which way to go on that when the retail finish, because we've got finishes and we're trying to finalize that, and so we've got some that are interested in one, some the other, and so if there's some consensus, that would really be helpful.
Well, I mean, right now I think it's the grocery store building you were showing as maybe it was like maybe it was a black brick at the base.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the existing public market is a red
More of a red brick, yeah.
kind of a rough hewn brick.
Right.
Can I ask a question on these guys? I'm curious if there's a material, like, because personally, I don't know how you feel. I agree with you, the color, I like the warmer kind of brick color, but I like the kind of glossiness of the brick and the kind of interest that adds. So I'm curious if there's a way to do a glazed on it that still allows a lot of the, still kind of adds some glazed finish, but allows a lot of the brick color to show through. Maybe kind of a more marbled look with the glaze or something like that.
Yeah, we want to be careful. If you're thinking more of a reddish glaze to it, it looks...
Well, just something that has a much more translucent glaze, I guess.
You mean more of like an ochre color, or
red brick with a glaze, where you're seeing I don't know if that's what you're talking about, where you're getting the natural warmth of the brick through.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we'd rather do regular red brick than red glazed brick.
Yeah,
We
I
want
would,
finished
I would rather see the brick being a brick rather than it being
I agree.
a coated brick.
It could look like some of the buildings you've seen in New York that were done maybe the 80s, that are that shiny brick, and it just doesn't
It doesn't
carry
age well.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. All right, never mind. That's not what I was saying. I mean, I really like that glaze. I think if that black glaze was just was more translucent and allowed
Maybe a
the red to
little
show
lighter,
through better. I don't know.
I think if it's going to be red, it should be regular brick. If it's going to be glazed, it needs to be a darker color.
agree.
All right, so it sounds like we have more or less consensus on brick color, like on
No,
brick.
Stephen doesn't.
Not necessarily. I am more interested. See, when I first looked at this, I thought, this building isn't really relating to the public market. And then I thought, this is a separate project. Not every building within this project has to look like the public market. And I like the more contemporary feel of this as a separate building that's not the public market. But what I would rather see is something of a brick that has a texture and a warmth and a feeling to its look rather than a sheen. It could be black. It could be, because I really am seeing there's a lot of buildings. They just did the one next door to Pacific Park Plaza in more muted, darker colors. And I think I told you in a conversation where I think if you painted the public market tower a darker color, it would become more marketable, because right now it's really ugly colors. So I don't mind the darker colors, but I just think the brick being shiny just sets it way off as being something else. And I think if we add a red brick to that doesn't look like the public market currently does, we're going to look like we tried to match it and we missed. And I think it's just going to make a kind of a chaotic mess. Like, what they do there, they didn't quite hit that. And I'd rather see you do something different, but that ties together. And that's why I think the black windows kind of ties with the future of the black window roll-up doors you're going to do at the public market. So I think we can tie these together, but still make them separate projects. So that's my feeling. So I don't think you have a consensus in the
No,
whole.
because I think you can tie it together using the brick judiciously and not,
Yeah.
it won't look like you're trying to imitate the public market, but it relates.
Yeah, but I think if you use brick, then you kind of get away from being able to make the building more contemporary, and it has to go more transitional and look more older or industrial. And I think if they're trying to do a contemporary building and you put red brick on it, it's going to be kind of odd looking. But again, it's just, it's a bunch of opinions.
If you do it right, everyone will be all right.
Good luck with that.
Well, okay.
And I like board form concrete.
You do? Okay. I just don't know how I'm supposed to feel about
Yeah.
it.
I was a child of the 70s.
The idea in the board forms is supposed to be more of the industrial look. That was the idea. And there's evidence of it's not going to look like it was done today. We're trying to make it look like it was some of the older industrial buildings that were done in concrete with board form back, 80 years ago. That's the hope. That's what we're trying to achieve.
All right. I just got back from Freeway Park in Seattle, so I might be a little scarred. What was I going to say? At a minimum, as far as the materials on the shell mount facade, I would like to see sort of at least a different pattern in the panels. Is it the cement panels with that kind of brownish color? I don't know how you guys feel about that, but at least something that was a little more interesting than just all these vertical lines across the whole building.
You're talking the eastern side, or?
On the shell mound elevation.
Oh, yeah.
On those panels, they're the brown elevations, or it's the brown material. It's just, they're just long overlapping planks.
Well, I've actually seen it where it was done relatively well. I was in Oakland, somewhere near Lake Merritt recently, driving past, and it was a reddish. And they actually did. It was almost looked kind of like a CMU, in that it was a stacked bond. Like, the joints were all lined up, not staggered, and they were more horizontally oriented than vertically oriented. And I thought it looked pretty nice.
I'm happy with the way that looks myself. I like the more elongated look on that and the more unified look. Because I think in some places it's nice to have a rhythm that's uniform, and then they're staggering the yellow and blue boards a little bit. So I think if we staggered a lot of things, the thing would begin to look a little jarring.
So you got good direction.
Good luck with all that.
We can count, see who's leaning which way, and try to come with a majority view on this and come up with something that's attractive that everyone loves. Thank you.
You have two people missing, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Completely different
You can use your.
Next.
All right. So, with that, we will move on to the next study session. Also on.
Could we take a break?
You guys want to take a break? All right. We'll take a break. We'll come back at 9:30.